The extraction drill shuddered, sending a fine mist of crystalline dust cascading across Maya Rodriguez's environmental suit. Her gloved hands moved with practiced precision, adjusting the quantum resonance sensors that were supposed to be monitoring mineral deposits on Kepler 742 bits. Instead, something was off. Outside the reinforced habitat dome, Kepler 742 bits' twin suns cast harsh shadows across a landscape of obsidian black rock and rust-colored plains. This was humanity's furthest outpost, a mining colony so remote that most galactic charts barely acknowledged its existence. Humans were the universe's footnote, the new species everyone politely ignored. Maya's communication panel blinked with an incoming transmission. She expected another routine update from Colonial Resource Management, the megacorporation that funded this expedition. Instead, the screen displayed an encrypted signal that made no sense. "Computer," she muttered, "run quantum pattern analysis." The AI's neutral voice responded instantly. "Anomaly detected. Signal does not match any known communication protocols in the Galactic database." Her breath caught in her throat. Every signal was supposed to be cataloged, every transmission understood. The Galactic Concordance had maintained perfect communication standards for 3 millennia. Nothing went unrecorded, unclassified, unexplained. Except this. 12,000 light-years away, in the gleaming central chambers of the Galactic Council, representatives from 17 different species lounged in anti-gravity chairs that shifted color with their emotional states. Today, they were a pale, dismissive blue. "The human colonial expansion continues," announced Zorakal, a crystalline being from the Andromeda Nexus, its prismatic body refracting light with each subtle movement. "Their technological development remains rudimentary." A low chuckle rippled through the chamber. The Voth representative, a massive tentacled entity that resembled a combination of squid and living stone, shifted its immense bulk. "Rudimentary is generous. They're barely out of their planetary cradle. Another 100 generations, perhaps they'll understand basic interstellar protocols." No one noticed the small holographic marker representing human territories. No one saw how it pulsed with an unusual energy. Back on Kepler 742 bits, Maya's hands moved with increasing urgency. The anomalous signal wasn't random. It was a message. An old message, perhaps incredibly old. The artifact she discovered earlier that week was unlike anything in the standard geological survey databases, roughly the size of her palm. It looked like obsidian mixed with strange metallic threads that seemed to shimmer and move when not directly observed. Initial scans suggested technologies so advanced they bordered on the impossible. "Quantum entanglement confirmed," the AI announced. "Signal source: unknown origin. Estimated age: approximately 87,000 standard galactic cycles." Maya's heart raced. That was 3 times longer than the Galactic Concordance had existed, longer than any known civilization's recorded history. The artifact began to pulse, soft at first, then with increasing intensity. Quantum threads within its structure began to rotate, creating complex geometric patterns that seemed to dance between 3-dimensional space and something else. "Initiating defensive protocols," the AI stated. "Negative," Maya commanded. "Full analysis mode." A holographic projection erupted from the artifact. Not a message, not a communication, but a warning. Fragmented images flickered, massive structures collapsing. Entire star systems going dark. Something moving between the spaces of reality. Something that consumed civilizations like a child might absent-mindedly crush insects. And then, as quickly as it started, the projection vanished. The communication panel remained silent. The artifact returned to its previous, seemingly inert state. Maya Rodriguez understood something fundamental in that moment. Humanity was being washed. Not with malevolence, not with kindness, but with a cold, calculating assessment that suggested they were merely waiting. Waiting for what? She tagged the artifact for immediate, classified transmission to Earth. Whatever this was, it couldn't remain out here, alone, on the edge of explored space. The twin suns of Kepler 742 bits continued their merciless arc across the sky, indifferent to the potential cosmic drama that had just unfolded in a small research station on a forgotten planet in humanity's most distant colony. The galaxy knew peace. For now, the first plasma bolt struck the Io colony's outer defense grid at 300 hours standard time. No warning, no diplomatic communication, just pure, overwhelming violence. Jack Nakamura was already awake when the alarms began to scream. Technically, he wasn't even supposed to be here. Dishonorably discharged from the Terran Expeditionary Force 3 years ago, he'd been working as a low-level security consultant for the Jupiter colonies. Most considered him a has-been, a relic of military strategies that had become obsolete in the age of galactic diplomacy. The Zorn attack was anything but diplomatic. Massive biomechanical warships emerged from quantum translation, their hulls a nightmare of organic metal and pulsing energy conduits. Each vessel was the size of a small city, designed to crush resistance through sheer technological superiority. The Zorn had conquered dozens of civilizations. They didn't negotiate. They consumed. Active defense systems are down, the colony's AI announced with maddening calm. Recommend immediate evacuation. Jack's hands were already moving. Years of training didn't simply disappear, no matter what his discharge papers claimed. Negative. He subvocalized into his comlink. Reroute all non-essential power to point defense networks. Configure random frequency quantum scrambling across all communication bands. The colony's chief of security, a woman named Imani Okoro, responded with a mixture of desperation and hope. Nakamura, you're not authorized. I'm the only thing standing between these colonies and total destruction. Jack interrupted. The first wave of Zorn drop pods began their descent. Each was a living weapon, containing biomechanical shock troops designed to eliminate resistance with surgical precision. Standard colonial defense protocols would crumble in minutes. But Jack Nakamura was anything but standard. He'd spent his years of exile studying the Zorn, not through official channels, but through a network of smugglers, archaeologists, and information brokers. He understood something that the Galactic Concordance had forgotten. Every technological system had vulnerabilities. Every seemingly invincible force had a critical weakness. The colony's civilian population was being herded into emergency shelters, children crying, elderly being assisted. The pure terror of a population that had never known real war. Jack accessed the colony's maintenance network, not the primary systems. Those would be heavily defended. But the secondary quantum relays, the forgotten backdoors that most systems considered irrelevant. Imani, he said, I need you to trust me. A plasma bolt obliterated the colony's primary communication array. Silence descended. Then something unexpected happened. The Zorn drop pods began to malfunction. Not catastrophically, not obviously, but with subtle, almost imperceptible glitches that would only become apparent mid-descent. Jack was rewriting their navigation protocols in real time. Using the colony's own maintenance systems as a Trojan horse, he was turning the Zorn's technological superiority against them. One drop pod veered slightly. Another's quantum stabilizers began to misalign. The third's biomechanical interface started sending conflicting signals. The first pod crashed 2 kilometers from its intended landing zone. Then another. Then 3 more. The Zorn commanders watching from their command ships couldn't believe what they were seeing. Their perfect invasion was becoming a cascading failure. Impossible, the Zorn Archon growled, its multiple neural interfaces displaying a constellation of failure points. No species has this capability. Jack allowed himself a tight smile. He wasn't trying to win. Not yet. He was trying to survive. To buy time. To show the Zorn that humanity was not some passive, easily conquered species. Civilian defense teams, inspired by Jack's subtle interference, began to mount their own resistance. Mining equipment became weapons. Industrial lasers were repurposed. An entire colony transformed from potential victims to unexpected combatants. The first Zorn ground units that managed successful landings found themselves in a war zone that followed no known tactical manual, no predictable resistance, no standard response patterns, just pure, adaptive human survival. As the first day of invasion drew to a close, something became terrifyingly clear to the Zorn commanders. They had made a very serious mistake. Humanity was not going to be just another conquest. Dr. Elena Okoy's research facility looked like a nightmare of organized chaos. Holographic displays flickered with alien schematics, captured Zorn technology littered every available surface, and at least 3 different teams worked in a state of caffeinated hyperfocus that bordered on scientific madness. "We're not just reverse engineering," Elena muttered to herself. "We're rewriting the fundamental rules of technological engagement." 36 hours after the initial Zorn attack, humanity's response was nothing short of revolutionary. The facility, hidden deep beneath the Atacama Desert, represented humanity's most closely guarded secret, the Adaptive Response Initiative. Jack Nakamura's tactical interference during the Io colony attack had provided them with something precious: time and data. Fragments of Zorn communication protocols, glimpses of their technological infrastructure, tactical deployment patterns. Each piece was a puzzle that Elena and her team were solving at an impossible pace. "Quantum entanglement breach confirmed," announced Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, Elena's lead quantum systems engineer. His fingers danced across holographic interfaces, creating patterns that would have seemed like magic to scientists just a decade earlier. "We're not just intercepting their signals, we're beginning to understand their language." The Zorn communication network was a marvel of biological-technological integration. Most species would have spent years, decades, trying to comprehend its complexity. Humanity was doing it in hours. Elena pulled up a schematic that made her breath catch. What had initially looked like an impenetrable alien communication matrix was slowly revealing its underlying structure. It wasn't just a network. It was a living system with predictable and exploitable rhythms. "They think in hierarchies," she explained to her team. "Rigid, structured, with clear chains of command. But those chains are also their greatest weakness." Outside the facility, the world was changing. Military installations that had been considered antiquated were being transformed. Manufacturing plants retooled themselves overnight. Every human resource was being redirected, repurposed, reimagined. The Zorn had chosen to attack humanity at what they believed was its weakest point. They were about to learn the true meaning of adaptability. In orbit around Jupiter, the remnants of the initial invasion force were experiencing their first true shock. Communication networks began to destabilize. Tactical systems developed inexplicable glitches. It was as if the very technology they relied on was turning against them. Jack Nakamura watched from a secured communication hub, a ghost in the machine of human resistance. "They don't understand," he said to Imani Okoro, who had become his unlikely ally. "Every system has a rhythm, a pattern. The Zorn think their technology is perfect, but nothing is perfect." Back in the Atacama facility, Elena made a breakthrough that would change everything. "We're not just breaking their communication protocols," she announced to her team. "We're learning to speak their language, and then we're going to rewrite it." A captured Zorn tactical drone lay dissected on a quantum-sealed examination table. What had once been an incomprehensible piece of alien technology was now becoming a blueprint for humanity's survival. "Psychological warfare meets technological innovation," Dr. Tanaka mumbled, half to himself. "We're not just fighting. We're evolving." The first true test came unexpectedly. A Zorn communication burst, intended to coordinate a secondary invasion wave, was intercepted. But instead of being simply decoded, it was understood, anticipated, and then, most terrifyingly for the Zorn, manipulated. Tactical deployment sites began to receive conflicting orders. Communication channels became labyrinths of misinformation. The Zorn war machine, so precise and so certain of its superiority, began to turn in on itself. Elena looked at the holographic display, a rare smile crossing her face. They thought we were primitive. They never considered that primitive might mean flexible, adaptive. As the first day of humanity's true technological counteroffensive drew to a close, something became terrifyingly clear to the Zorn leadership. Humanity was not just fighting back. Humanity was learning, evolving, transforming. And the galaxy had no idea what was coming. The Galactic Concordance chamber fell silent. Ambassador Zarekil's prismatic body flickered with colors that hadn't been seen in the diplomatic halls for millennia. Confusion, fear, barely contained panic. The holographic display showed something impossible, a comprehensive breakdown of the Zorn invasion force that defied every known principle of interstellar conflict. Impossible, the Voth representative rumbled, its massive form trembling slightly. No species develops technological countermeasures this quickly. No species adapts this efficiently. Diplomatic protocol crumbled in those moments. The carefully maintained facade of galactic superiority was developing hairline fractures. Maya Rodriguez watched from a secure transmission point, her fingers tracing the outline of the mysterious artifact she'd discovered on Kepler 742 bits. Something was happening. Something far larger than a simple territorial conflict. The communication channels between various galactic species began to light up with unprecedented activity. The Zorn, a species that had conquered civilizations with clinical precision for thousands of years, were experiencing their first true defeat. Not a strategic withdrawal, not a tactical retreat, a comprehensive, systemic collapse. Jack Nakamura understood the true nature of what was happening. This wasn't just a military engagement. This was a fundamental challenge to the galaxy's understanding of technological and species development. "They're watching us," he said to Imani Okoro, his voice low and intense. "Not just the Zorn. Everyone." The first substantive communication from the Galactic Concordance came 3 days after the initial human counteroffensive. It was less a diplomatic message and more a barely concealed demand for explanation. Dr. Elena Okoye found herself in a position no human scientist had ever experienced. She was about to explain humanity's technological breakthrough to a panel of alien representatives who had, until very recently, considered humans little more than a footnote in galactic history. The transmission was encrypted through channels that would have been impossible to breach just weeks earlier. Quantum-entangled communication lines that normally took months to establish were configured in hours. "Our technological adaptation isn't linear," Elena explained, her holographic presentation dissecting the Zorn communication networks with surgical precision. "It's exponential. We don't just learn. We comprehend. We transform." The alien representatives struggled to understand. Their civilizations had developed stable technological paradigms millennia ago. Innovation had become a carefully managed, predictable process. Humanity represented something entirely different, a species that saw technological limitations as temporary challenges to be overcome. Maya's artifact continued to pulse. Subtle, almost imperceptible. But something was definitely happening. In the depths of human research facilities, teams were already moving beyond simply understanding captured Zorn technology. They were reimagining it. Entire manufacturing complexes were being retooled. Military strategies were being rewritten in real time. Jack Nakamura received a classified transmission, encrypted, from sources deep within what remained of human military intelligence. The message was simple. Phase 2 is about to begin. Galactic political channels began to fragment. Some alien species saw opportunity in humanity's unexpected capabilities. Others saw an existential threat. The Zorn, once considered an unassailable force of galactic conquest, were now a case study in technological vulnerability. They never considered flexibility as a weapon, Elena told her team. "Rigid systems are inherently vulnerable. We are not rigid." The artifact Maya had discovered seemed to pulse in agreement. As the first week of humanity's unexpected resistance drew to a close, the galaxy found itself confronting a fundamental question. What happened when a species refused to accept the limitations others try to impose upon it? The Galactic Concordance had known peace for 3,000 years. That peace was about to be shattered, and humanity was just getting started. The first human faster-than-light strike came without warning. 12 Zorn command ships hung in the Delta Centauri system, believing themselves to be beyond reach. They represented the core of the Zorn military's strategic command, a network of vessels so technologically advanced that they had been considered invulnerable for centuries. Jack Nakamura's plan was anything but conventional. "We're not going to fight their war," he explained to a select team of strategists, holographic displays dancing around him. "We're going to redefine the entire concept of warfare." The attack began with what appeared to be a catastrophic systems failure. Not an attack, not an invasion, just a seemingly random cascade of technological failures that spread through the Zorn fleet like a virus. Quantum communication networks began to destabilize. Navigation systems developed impossible glitches. Each ship's internal systems started to work against themselves, creating a symphony of technological chaos that no traditional countermeasure could stop. Dr. Elena Okoye watched from a secure research facility, her team having spent weeks developing what could only be described as a technological plague. It wasn't a weapon in any traditional sense. It was an information ecosystem designed to completely dismantle the Zorn's technological superiority. "They think in hierarchies," Elena muttered. "We think in networks." The first Zorn command ship went dark exactly 17 minutes into the operation. No explosion, no dramatic destruction. It simply ceased to function. Its quantum drives shut down. Its communication networks collapsed. Its defensive systems became nothing more than inert metal and composite materials. Then another went dark, and another. Maya Rodriguez tracked the operation from her remote research station, the mysterious artifact pulsing with an energy that seemed to resonate with the unfolding events. Something was happening. Something far beyond a simple military engagement. "Quantum entanglement breach confirmed," her station's AI announced. "Correlation with unexpected dimensional fluctuations detected." The Zorn leadership watched in horror as their most secure command ships simply became dark, silent hulks floating in the vastness of space. Their entire strategic infrastructure was being dismantled not through force, but through a complete reimagining of technological interaction. Jack's strategy was brutally elegant. They weren't destroying the Zorn ships. They were making them irrelevant, turning their own technological complexity against them. "This isn't just a counterattack," Jack explained to Imani Okoro, who had become his closest strategic partner. "This is a complete paradigm shift." Galactic communication channels erupted. The Zorn, who had conquered civilizations with clinical precision for thousands of years, were experiencing something they had never conceptualized: total systemic failure. The human strike teams were ghosts, impossible to track, impossible to predict. They moved through the Delta Centauri system like shadows, their technology so adaptive that traditional tracking systems simply couldn't comprehend their existence. Elena's team had done more than develop a technological weapon. They had created a new form of strategic engagement that rewrote the fundamental rules of interstellar conflict. "Technological supremacy is a myth," she told her team. "Adaptability is the only true weapon." As the operation drew to a close, 12 Zorn command ships floated silently. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply neutralized. The artifact Maya had discovered continued to pulse, almost like a heartbeat, almost like a countdown. The Zorn leadership, for the first time in their species' documented history, experienced something close to true fear. Their technological infrastructure, the very thing they had believed made them invincible, had become their greatest vulnerability. Humanity had just demonstrated something terrifying. In the right hands, information could be more destructive than any physical weapon. The galaxy watched, and humanity was just getting started. The United Earth Council chamber was not a place of celebration. It was a battlefield of a different kind. "We're not just a military force," argued Dr. Elena Okoye, her holographic presentation casting long shadows across the assembled leaders. "We're a species in the process of fundamental transformation." Maya Rodriguez stood to the side, the mysterious artifact secured in a quantum-locked case. Its occasional pulse seemed to synchronize with the intense debate raging around her. Something was changing. Something fundamental. Jack Nakamura watched the proceedings with a strategist's eye. The human leadership was fracturing, but not in weakness, in complexity. Some advocated for total war against the Zorn, complete elimination. Others saw a more nuanced path, understanding, then neutralization. The debate wasn't about if they would respond, but how. "The artifact," Maya interrupted, her voice cutting through the diplomatic noise, "is trying to tell us something." The room fell silent. Deep within the most secure research facilities, teams were already pushing the boundaries of what humanity understood about technology, communication, and existence itself. The Zorn invasion had become more than a conflict. It was a catalyst. Jack approached Maya, his voice low. "What do you know?" The artifact pulsed. A holographic projection erupted. Fragmented images of civilizations rising and falling. Something moving between the spaces of reality. A threat far larger than the Zorn. "We're not the target," Maya said, her voice barely a whisper. "We're the response." Diplomatic channels across the galaxy were in chaos. The Galactic Concordance, which had maintained peace for 3 millennia, was experiencing its first true existential challenge. Humanity had become something unexpected, something unclassifiable. Elena's research had revealed something profound. Human adaptability was not just a technological trait, it was a fundamental aspect of their species' psychology. "We don't just learn," she explained to her team. "We transform. Every challenge is an opportunity for complete reinvention." The captured Zorn technologies were being studied, understood, and then completely reimagined. Manufacturing complexes that had once produced consumer goods were now creating technologies that would have seemed like magic mere months ago. Jack received a classified transmission, encrypted through channels that didn't officially exist. The message was cryptic. "The artifact is a key, not a weapon. Not a message, a key." Humanity's internal debates reflected a species at a crossroads. Some saw the recent victories as a chance for galactic dominance. Others saw something more profound, a responsibility to prevent the larger threat that the artifact hinted at. Maya's research team had discovered something unusual about the artifact. Its quantum signature didn't match any known technology. It seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, defying the fundamental laws of physics as they were understood. "We're not just fighting the Zorn," Maya told Jack. "We're being prepared for something else." The United Earth Council was transforming. No longer a simple governing body, it was becoming a strategic think tank that approached challenges with an unprecedented level of adaptability. Elena's team had developed technologies that made the previous month's breakthroughs look primitive. Communication systems that could understand and adapt to any linguistic or technological barrier. Defensive technologies that were more about redirection than destruction. The Zorn had made a critical mistake. They had assumed humanity was a static, predictable species. They were about to learn how wrong they were. As the debates continued, as research pushed beyond known boundaries, something became increasingly clear. Humanity was not just responding to a threat. Humanity was evolving. And the galaxy had no idea what was coming. The Zorn homeworld burned, but not in the way anyone expected. Jack Nakamura watched from a quantum-encrypted observation point as humanity's most revolutionary operation unfolded. This wasn't destruction. This was systematic deconstruction. A complete reimagining of an entire civilization's infrastructure. Quantum cascade algorithms developed by Dr. Elena Okoye's team were dismantling the Zorn's societal framework with surgical precision. Communication networks collapsed. Technological hierarchies crumbled. The most advanced civilization in the known galaxy was being systematically transformed from within. "We're not conquering," Elena explained to her team. "We're deprogramming." Maya Rodriguez stood beside her, the artifact from Kepler 700 and 42 bits now fully active. Its quantum signature had begun to synchronize with the unfolding events, creating patterns that defied conventional understanding of space, time, and technological interaction. The Galactic Concordants watched in horrified fascination. What humanity was doing was unprecedented. They weren't destroying the Zorn. They were fundamentally changing them, revealing the fatal flaws in a civilization built on rigid technological and social hierarchies. Captured Zorn technologies were being transformed into something entirely new. Manufacturing complexes that once produced war machines now created adaptive systems that could solve problems no one had yet conceived. "Technological supremacy is an illusion," Jack muttered, reviewing the operational data. "Adaptability is the only true power." The artifact pulsed. A holographic projection erupted. Fragmented images of civilizations rising and falling. Something moving between the spaces of reality. A threat far larger than the Zorn had ever been. Maya understood now. This wasn't just about the Zorn. This was a test, a preparation. Humanity's response to the Zorn invasion had been more than a military engagement. It was a species-wide evolutionary leap. Research facilities around Earth were pushing boundaries that had previously been considered impossible. Communication technologies that could understand and adapt to any linguistic or technological barrier. Defensive systems that were more about redirection and understanding than destruction. The United Earth Council had transformed. No longer a simple governing body, it had become a strategic think tank that approached challenges with an unprecedented level of complexity and adaptability. "We're not just fighting," Elena told a classified gathering of human leaders. "We're learning. We're becoming something new." The Zorn leadership watched in terror as their most fundamental systems were systematically dismantled, not through violence, not through traditional warfare, but through a complete reimagining of technological and social interaction. Quantum communication networks revealed the true fragility of the Zorn's civilization. Hierarchical systems that had seemed unbreakable were now shown to be fundamentally vulnerable. Jack received a transmission, encrypted through channels that didn't officially exist. The message was simple: phase transition confirmed. Humanity was doing something no species had ever done before. They weren't just adapting to a threat. They were transforming the very nature of the threat itself. The artifact continued to pulse. Maya had begun to understand its true nature. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a message. It was a test. And humanity was passing with flying colors. Galactic communication channels erupted. The Zorn, who had conquered civilizations with clinical precision for thousands of years, were experiencing something they had never conceptualized: complete systemic transformation. "Technological supremacy is a myth," Elena told her team. "Adaptability is the only true constant." As the operation drew to a close, the Zorn homeworld was not destroyed. It was reimagined, transformed into something entirely new. A civilization forced to confront its own fundamental limitations. The artifact's quantum signature began to synchronize with something larger, something beyond human comprehension. Humanity had just demonstrated something terrifying to the galaxy. Given the right motivation, a species could completely reinvent itself. And they were just getting started. The galaxy watched and trembled. The Galactic Concordance chamber had never known such silence. Holographic displays showed what humanity had become: not a military force, not a conquering species, something entirely unprecedented. Maya Rodriguez stood at the center of it all, the artifact from Kepler 742 bits now fully integrated into a technological system that defied every known principle of physics, communication, and existence. Jack Nakamura and Dr. Elena Okoye flanked her, representatives of a species that had transformed itself in ways no one could have predicted. The threat the artifact had warned about was no longer a distant possibility. It was approaching. Something moved between the spaces of reality. A civilization-ending force that had consumed countless civilizations across multiple dimensions. The Zorn invasion had been nothing more than a test, a preliminary probe, and humanity had passed with extraordinary brilliance. "We are not what we were," Maya announced to the assembled galactic representatives. Her voice carried a weight that transcended traditional communication. "We are what we must become." The artifact pulsed, its quantum signature now a complex network that integrated human technological innovation, adaptive thinking, and something far more profound. Elena's research had revealed the true nature of their transformation. Humanity wasn't just a species. It was a living, adaptive system. Every challenge became an opportunity for complete reinvention. The captured Zorn technologies had been more than a weapon. They were a catalyst. Quantum communication networks that once seemed impossible now connected humanity in ways that blurred the line between individual and collective consciousness. Manufacturing systems could adapt and create solutions to problems that hadn't even been conceived. Jack reviewed the final strategic assessment. The approaching threat made the Zorn invasion look like a minor skirmish. A civilization-consuming force that moved between dimensions, consuming entire realities. "We're not preparing to fight," he told the Council. "We're preparing to understand." The United Earth Council had become something more than a governing body. A strategic think tank that approached challenges with a level of complexity and adaptability that seemed to defy the very laws of existence. Galactic representatives watched in a mixture of terror and fascination. The artifact continued its quantum dance. Maya had come to understand its true purpose. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a message. It was a key. A key to understanding a universe far more complex than anyone had imagined. Humanity's response to the Zorn had been more than a military engagement. It was a species-wide evolutionary leap. They had transformed not through violence, but through understanding, through adaptability. "We are the response," Maya whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. The approaching threat began to take shape, a civilization-consuming force that had moved between realities, consuming entire civilizations with a clinical efficiency that made the Zorn look primitive. But humanity was ready. Not with weapons, not with traditional defenses, but with a fundamental reimagining of what defense could mean. Elena's final research revealed something profound. The approaching threat wasn't something to be fought. It was something to be understood, to be communicated with, to be transformed. Jack received the final transmission, encrypted through channels that didn't officially exist. "Initiate quantum resonance protocol." The artifact pulsed. Its quantum signature began to synchronize with the approaching threat. And something extraordinary happened. Communication, understanding, a fundamental restructuring of what conflict could mean. The galaxy watched as humanity did something no species had ever done before. They didn't destroy the threat. They transformed it. As the final moments of the confrontation unfolded, it became clear that humanity was no longer just another species in the galactic ecosystem. They were something else entirely. A living, adaptive system that could reimagine the very nature of existence. The galaxy knew peace for 3,000 years. That peace was about to become something far more profound, and humanity was leading the way.